Big story coming out of Pakistan that the first official response has been released by the Pakistan Foreign Office. It's defending its move to set Hafiz Saeed free. Remember, Pakistan has released Hafiz Saeed, the 26/11 attacks mastermind. He's been released from house arrest. He was under house arrest for 297 days, and many people say that it was a sham of an arrest. And now Pakistan has come forward and defended its move, saying that Pakistan is determined to uphold rule of law and due processes for all citizens of Pakistan. And remember, the citizen that Pakistan is talking about right now is not an ordinary citizen. He is a global terrorist designated by the US and the United Nations. He carries a $10 million bounty on his head, and he's the mastermind of the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai that took place in 2008, in which over 166 people were killed. And now Pakistan has gone ahead and defended, justified its move of setting Hafiz Saeed free. And on your screens are the visuals of that ceremony, of that cake-cutting ceremony that's nothing but an insult to the victims of the 26/11 attacks.
सबसे पहले हम अपने अल्लाह का शुक्र अदा करते हैं कि जिसने बाइज़्ज़त रिहाई दी। हाई कोर्ट में 3 जजों ने फैसला किया। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है कि मेरे ज़िम्मे कोई ऐसा एग्जाम।
All right, for more on this, I'm joined by Glenn Carle on the broadcast. He is a former CIA officer. Mr. Carle, thank you so much for speaking to World is One News. How do you see this development, despite outrage being expressed by India, despite concerns being raised by the US as well? Pakistan has gone ahead and released Hafiz Saeed, the global terrorist.
Yes, well, good morning, at least from where I am. Well, India's and the United States' positions about this fellow have been pretty clear, and we, as well as the United Nations and many other countries too. I think the element in the reasoning for the Pakistanis a few months ago was that Trump was saying wild things, and the Pakistanis thought, well, let's keep our heads down for a little while and avoid more problems than possibly we can have to deal with. And now, after 10 months, Trump is weaker, and the Pakistanis realize that he talks tough and is fundamentally no different with respect to Pakistan. And so I think it's a way for them to return to the status prior to the election. And India and the United States are in some ways impotent here because to escalate matters creates all sorts of other problems for India in particular, and the United States. So I think Pakistani is just snubbing its nose, really, at the U.S. and India.
Right. Mr. Carle, in September, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif had said that Hafiz Saeed is a liability for them. And today, just a day after his release, the Pakistan Foreign Office has come out in Hafiz Saeed's defense, justifying his release. Do you think that the Pakistan Foreign Office and the Foreign Minister are not on the same page? In fact, the government too is indulging in doublespeak.
Well, doublespeak, I think, shouldn't surprise anyone. So there's probably some intent there. But I also think that all of us make the mistake of assuming that other parties, in this instance Pakistan's government, act coherently and with forethought and a plan. And frequently that is simply not the case. When we look at our own experiences, whether it's for a television network or in the CIA or in the government or one country or another, we realize that there are all sorts of factions pulling in contradictory directions at the same time. So I know from having worked with Pakistanis and on the issues of Pakistan, that Pakistan is at least as incoherent as any other government, and perhaps more so. So it's not a surprise that they are speaking at cross purposes, and I don't think that that's probably intentional. I think that, sure, there are factions pulling in different directions. I wouldn't attribute intent, just human confusion to that.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Carle, for speaking to World is One News. So that was former CIA officer Glenn Carle speaking on Hafiz Saeed's release and the Pakistan Foreign Office statement justifying his release.